what kind of input did Slipstream provide? Just for
there was some discussion regarding some of the geothermal components with regard to I think there was glycol versus not, and some of the light separate from the geothermal. There was some comments about lighting controls and occupancy timing and ways to sharpen the pencil to get as much as we can out of the building. So it wasn't a exhaustive review of every single spec and detail. It was largely to ensure that the project was in line with Path One's criteria, and that we weren't trying to design a building with old components and no insulation and try to get a couple $100,000 out of Eversource. So it was a good discussion, and they were brief, short, and to the point, and it was good.
Good. Well, we'll gladly pay them for their insight. Would anyone like to make a motion about paying this invoice?
Everybody's quiet. I'll make that motion.
Okay, Woody,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
And that what percentage does that take Tecton up to, by the way? Just Adam, if you know the subject.
For DD, we're at 90%.
Okay, got it. Great. So I think that's unanimous, I believe. So moving on to item number 8, procurement of review of approvals, value engineering, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes. So based on our conversation at the last meeting, I compiled my understanding of the various discussions and comments that were had. By and large, the committee seemed in favor of the overwhelming majority of the value engineering and value management items. So I have, as included in the packet, highlighted a few of them that seem to have either discussion warranted, or there was some updates and values and things of that nature. So just before I go into these blue items, were there any items the committee saw in the sort of the white items here that they disagreed with, or think that makes sense to have some more discussion about? All right.
Hearing none.
Hearing none, and we can always go back if we need to. But so the first topic is the reducing the gym skylights from 8 down to 4. The reason this was highlighted was that the redesign from Tecton to make the building more efficient and get some cost savings eliminated a lot of the clear stories above the gym. So the only means of natural light right now is through those skylights. They are expensive just by their nature, being skylights, and you need OSHA cages around them so someone that's on the roof doesn't fall through accidentally. So there is a bit of cost to each one of those. So by eliminating 4, there's a savings of about $26,000. But the concern was, is there a sufficient amount of natural light in the gym, and is the town going to regret taking them out later for that amount of money?
And I think there was
What size are they?
I believe they're like 5 by 10, something like that.
So they're fairly sizable.
Yeah, they're not mini solar tubes or anything like that. They're substantive skylights.
Okay, can we see the plan on how they lay out over the space before we determine this, just to get an idea?
Yes, let me pull that up.
So those are the 8, and you want to go down to 4. Which 4?
Defer to one of my lovely architects to identify what would be the layout.
not symmetrical. I hope not.
Well, we're making the argument to leave the 8 skylights in.
Yeah.
However, if we were to go to 4, they would be repositioned so that they were centered over each half court.
My answer would be the 4 that aren't on the screen.
Got it. Okay, the 4 in between those 8.
Yes.
Got it.
I think that lighting's really important and eliminating the other part and keeping those 8 skylights I think is important.
So what's the savings if we take it out? It's 28,000?
26 something.
26 is the estimated value engineering savings.
Yeah, I'm kind of with the architects on that. It's probably not worth it. We can find savings somewhere else, I bet.
Any other,
Just out of curiosity, Adam, do you think that it affects the future photovoltaic arrays at all in terms of shading?
The shading from the skylight onto the panels or the
Either
illumination?
way, yeah, either way. I don't think the panels will do anything, but I don't think that, I don't think the skylights will hurt the panels, but the panels may shade the skylights.
Do you know what the offhand, what this elevation is?
My perspective is the skylights that we've had in our schools and seen, they're usually elevated up a little bit, Woody. They won't affect it other than take away space that the skylights will take away space for the UV. I think it's a non-issue.
Correct.
Okay,
but we need more light, probably need the light during the day. Lights would be on more during the day, or if you had them, right? So there actually would be a penalty if you eliminated them.
yeah, I agree with that. Plus, natural lighting is important, so I'm totally for leaving them.
All 8 or 4?
Personally, all 8.
Same.
So this is what I'm hearing is that they're.
So I think unless
rejecting
someone,
this.
I think that's the reject. Unless someone fell through a skylight when they were young somehow or somewhere.
That's right. Take out the.
Perfect. Okay, good.
Moving
on.
Moving on to the next blue topic. So this was an item that there wasn't a dollar value for last week. Subsequently, we've gotten this estimate for eliminating the basically another layer of drywall outside the CMU, the cinder block walls at the gym. So basically, these walls are already CMU. And so there was another layer of drywall in front of that. So this scope is $110,000 to basically eliminate the drywall from the perimeter of the gym. The most exposed areas are these 2 stretches of corridor. Otherwise, there's a fair amount of storage spaces, gym storage. There are some of the special rooms that would have exposed CMU as opposed to drywall. But that's what's basically presented before the committee, is to have the painted CMU in lieu of this additional layer of drywall. And
Which
this is-
specialty rooms are they?
It's the special ed resource rooms, math intervention, reading
So it's not like they're
intervention.
going to be hanging things on the walls there.
No, we don't believe so. The purpose of providing those gypsum preferred out walls, frankly, was to provide
Power.
structure, any electrical or data infrastructure. We can achieve that in other ways. So we think that this is an appropriate value management.
I agree. I think it's fine. If they're not going to be hanging things on those walls, it's not like a classroom where they need hanging space. I think it's fine. Personally.
Any other thoughts?
That's a
Is there
good
any
tip.
noise?
I agree.
Yeah.
We're looking for a lot of money, and so I think if everyone's comfortable, we should be as aggressive as possible this evening.
Yeah, I agree. Take it out.
Yes.
Okay.
Is there any noise ramification? Are we dealing with noise through other measures on the?
Yeah, through the other wall surfaces as well as the ceiling in there, we'll just make sure that we pay attention to any, any acoustics issues within those spaces.
So I think the consensus is to accept that one.
Accept. Yes.
Yep.
This next one, this is a lower value item. It's for some custom millwork display at the steam wall. that is, can't see it on this plan. It's in the elevation, Justin, do you know? Here. So at the steam room, so this is the main corridor, and you would enter the building from below here. There's called out to be this two-sided custom millwork display with some glazing to show off some of the presumably robots and things that the kids are building. Justin, if I recall, this was one of the STEAM teacher didn't have a lot of requirements for the room. This was one request to help showcase those items. Is that right? Justin's nodding yes.
Are we gonna just fill it in with
Oh,
a
I'm
solid
sorry.
wall or make it windows?
Sorry, you'd think after 3 years of virtual meetings, I'd know when I was muted. So yeah, so this was more or less a custom display case that would able to be loaded from the classroom side and also have visibility into the corridor. If this value management item was accepted, we would need to find a way to either deal with it through FF&E or some sort of display in the storefront that we have already facing the corridor.
Will that be storefront then there instead of millwork? At that location as well?
We will have to look at it. Obviously, one of the reasons for placing these rooms in their locations is to promote that visibility upon entry and in this kind of core space of the building. So we are achieving that to a certain extent with the glazing off of the south corridor.
But where we're taking out the millwork, is the value engineering to put back in a solid wall or glaze?
Correct. It would be just continuing the wall type that's there.
What's the
Yep, drywall.
expense of putting in the glazing there?
It depends on the glazing. Is that fire rated, Justin?
No, it wouldn't be fire
No.
rated.
Okay.
We're looking at what, $8,000? That's it?
I think
To
it was
make
less than
it-
that, it was like 6,
To accept the teachers,
7,000.
Yes.
$8,000.
Okay,
And it just seems to me, if that's what was asked for and it's going to promote visibility and let the kids show off what they're working on, I think we need to reject that. At least I feel we have to reject it. If it was
I'd like to know what the
50,000,
savings would be if we went to glazing as opposed to, I know it's not much, but every time you put back $8,000, it's gonna add up. So.
but we
you're
don't
just
have a
saying we
lot
need
of
to be aggressive.
things. Yeah, we
but-
don't have a lot of items that are that low that someone's actually made a case for keeping.
Fair enough.
And the glazing wouldn't, just glazing by itself, I don't think there'd be much of a savings. Nothing I'd want to document, I don't think, as compared to just drywall. So,
Okay,
Agreed.
then I'm with Woody, put it back.
I agree with Woody as well.
Beautiful.
Okay.
All right, moving on down. This next one is blue just because it was a new item that came out in the past week through a coordination between Kohler, Ronan, and Gilbane about changing some ductwork, the type of ductwork. It didn't need to be the more expensive type. So I presume there's no exceptions taken on the
No,
labor side
that's
of
fine.
things. Yeah. This next one, the last of the VM items, this is the plantings in the courtyard. It's just over $9,000. This was proposed as part of the broader review of the types of plantings and things. I believe currently, and I can pull up the plan in a moment, that there is some ground cover and I think maybe a tree or two to go in that space. So if those are eliminated, it would mostly just be hardscape and maybe some gravel or something to that effect. There's not much in there.
Is that something that can be added like 2 years after they move in? Like they can do a fundraiser to add greenery in there? Or something? I mean, does it have to be on day one?
I don't think so.
No, I'm just saying there'll be soil there that they could use for planting in the future, correct?
So there's a courtyard in one of the elementary schools and they've changed it 3 or 4 times since I've been there. They do different plantings, they tear them out, they do different stuff. So I think your point is that they could do something later.
Yeah, that's my point. Like, we should accept that savings and worry about it later.
Adam, is there any irrigation provision or anything in there that we should take note of?
No. There's no irrigation on the project.
Billy, what about in existing courtyards in schools? Do they need to be irrigated or?
So no, if they put a spigot there, the only one that's really been successful in my time here is the ones that the kids do plantings. And they're out there planting stuff and watering. So there should be a spigot, but I don't think irrigation in that courtyard is something we need to deal with.
But if
Is there
a spigot
drainage?
is, but with a spigot, that certainly would, they could put a small thing on a timer if they needed to until something took hold. So I think as long as there's a spigot there, we're good.
Yeah, and I'm very confident in the engineers and the architects designing this have drainage in the courtyard.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Yes, there's
I looked at
Okay,
it.
good.
There.
Yeah, we just opened the doors.
There you go. Let it flood through.
So if we take it, we'll need sod, earth, what's outside the hardscape? Would that just be a stone and topsoil, or what do we envision the remaining being?
It would likely be a stone bed outside of the actual hardscape there.
Is the design stone mulch, or is that what would be there otherwise anyway?
1 second, Graham, I can check.
So there's hardscape in there. That's what the round parts are?
Yes,
Okay. And that's staying. This is just the plantings that you're taking out. Okay,
Yes.
got it. I wasn't understanding that. Okay. Yeah, I'm all for it.
So through the ACA thing, one of the things that they had kind of suggested too was maybe leave just the 2 small trees and eliminate the rest of the stuff. But they felt that a couple of trees in there brings the space together a little bit better. So I'd be in favor of leaving a couple of trees and then eliminate the rest, let them work on that later on if they want to.
Okay, yeah, the trees are that's more problematic, getting a tree into a building.
Right.
Shrubs are easy, so yeah, and Evaca raised it as an issue, so. Yeah, maybe lately, leave the trees and take out everything else? With the idea that ultimately the students will plant in there? So we prep it that way. So I guess we'll accept it less the couple trees. Were they deciduous trees or?
I didn't believe that, but I'm just looking for the planting schedule, Graham. I may have to get back to you on that.
Okay, we can figure out.
Yeah.
Those disappearing leaves. Yeah.
I'll document it this way. It's not such a large value that eliminating it for cost conservatism is a problem. So I'll mark it this way and it'll get implemented as part of the next estimate.
They are deciduous trees. One was a magnolia, one was something else. I don't remember, but they're both deciduous.
Okay,
Bob's on top of it. He's got it.
Yeah, yes.
well, Bill
Need to
needs
get 'em
something
on
to complain
payroll.
about the leaves in the wintertime, so. We'll have the students clean up the leaves too.
So moving on to the alternates, or suggested alternates, I should say. The 4 items here that are highlighted all have some tie to the education specifications. These are the fire protection within the IT closets, the MDF and IDF room. That is basically, instead of having a standard system, having a higher end system that's waterless and has some pre-action detection to help prevent accidental destroying of servers. This one, Justin and Nick can comment, but I believe they've not seen these put in any of elementary school. I've not seen it been put in any elementary school. So it's a nice system, but it's largely geared for big server farms and
Was it requested by the
Like safety.
school? By the school board?
Bill, I think you spoke with Art today. I believe it was as an initial initial ask. but it doesn't appear to be a deal breaker necessarily. Is that accurate, Bill?
Yes, that's very accurate. When they talked to Art during the original interviews, they asked what would you like? What would you like to see? And Art also helps with dispatch where our 911 sophisticated, emergency setup is, and that has that sort of system because that's 911, that's crucial to the operation. I think a reality check is if the school catches on fire, who really cares about the computer lab? The whole place is going to burn down. So I think it's reality, nice to have, but not really essential item for this kind of operation.
What's the value of the servers in the school? Compared to,
Haven't priced those yet, but
Within $1.
Yeah.
But really,
it'll be in the cloud, Bill, in no time. I'm sure all the backup will be in the cloud anyway. At that point. Okay, but we're gonna keep it as alternatives because they're that spec and we're
right. And before I move on, I want to make sure everyone understands what the difference is between the VE and the alternate. I have a little example in the email, but basically anything that was taken as VE is removed from the drawings. We're not moving forward with those items in scope. The alternates are also removed from the base scope, but they're still shown in the drawings. So that way we get pricing for them at bid day. And if the bids are favorable, if funds are available, you can just elect to have them be part of the scope. But if it's an alternate, it's not de facto in the project when you see the bottom line number. And that's how the savings is derived. So they'll still design in the wet system or the fancier system. It's just not part of base pricing. Does that all make sense to everyone?
Yes.
Okay. The next one is the millwork cubbies. Based on some conversations I had today and have been kind of going back and forth, there's a preference from Dr. Cook and some others to potentially not have this be an option, just due to it starts touching on number of students in classrooms and flexibility for future use and things of that nature. It's for 15 classrooms, reducing 4 cubbies per classroom. So that was a request that was put in. It's for 35,000, but just want to convey all that information to the group here.
so the preference would be make it a
Just reject it.
rejected. I think everyone's fine with that unless someone wants to take an exception to that. Moving on.
This next alternate for about 72 grand is for having the tray washing equipment as an alternate. This ties to that bit of a discrepancy in the education specifications between where the kitchen was sized on a certain square footage, which suggested it would just be more of a prep kitchen and not have full, warming kitchen, not a full food prep kitchen with washing and all that. In talking with the food service consultant, the tray washing equipment was a sort of an isolated target that could be made as an alternate to save on the equipment. All the infrastructure would still be there. The room would still be there. It's just not purchasing the equipment right away. But basically that would be eliminating the dishwasher and the drying rack and the window and rolled on shutter and things of that nature. As opposed to using a dishwasher for washing pots and pans and things, it would also use the 3-wash sink that will remain. Basically it takes 70 grand off the project, but adds onto operating costs, because if you're not using reusable trays and washing them, you have to buy disposable ones constantly. So that's why this was suggested as an alternate rather than a straight VE item, because it does have this fairly substantial impact on operating costs.
So
What
no
do the other
risk.
schools have now? Do we know what the other schools use?
Full cooking kitchens we've seen have ware washing.
Okay.
What will the North, what will the North Madison School have?
I'm sorry, say that again?
What will the North Madison Elementary School have?
It does not. It does not have that.
So they use disposable up there?
Yeah, they do not have a washing system like proposed here.
What
They
does the
just
high
pack it
school have?
down?
The high school has one, Jeffrey School has one, Ryerson has one.
So the other elementary school is gonna have disposable trays?
I don't know what they're gonna have. I'm telling you what they have. I know what equipment's in the facility, but actually how they use them, I don't even know if they use them. You know, they might not even use them. I just know what's there. And I couldn't say that they use them every day. I'm not in the operations.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So because this is obviously because it's tied to the ed spec and because there's a bit of a balance there in cost, that was a primary driver for being an alternate. So again, it would be designed, it would be specified as part of the drawing set, and then a price would come in at bid day, and the decision to include it or not include it in the project could be made as part of, when we get bids in January or December, whenever that is.
So there's no risk in this one.
Correct.
Okay.
And then the last one is the radiant flooring that's come up a number of times. Again, this is not tied to the critical component of heating for the building. This is in the pre-K and K areas because the students are younger, they sit on the floor a lot, etc. So again, it'd be an alternate, be designed in, but just wouldn't be part of the base scope. And it's a big chunk of money at about 350K right now is the estimate.
And this is also in the ed spec.
Correct. So these four that we just discussed, those are all have some ties to the ed spec. And so the notion would be that I've spoken with the BOE chair, Seth, as well as Dr. Cook, and the understanding is that it would get brought before the Board of Education to confirm there's no issues, but ultimately not have to change the ed spec by removing things like we did last time. Instead, it would just be an acknowledgement of the plan to move forward with it on the drawings. But if there isn't funding, these might be cut, so to speak, at the end if there isn't enough funds.
Have they prioritized of these things, which one, if they had to keep, which would they keep? Have we asked them to prioritize? So when that time comes, if we can keep some of them?
That's a question can be posed. I don't have the answer as of right this moment, but between these items and then, pardon my scrolling, these items that were previously put in down as alternates back at schematic design phase, as well as two items that have come up as part of the design but didn't make it into those base number estimates. Between these items down here and the alternates above, that's a question that can get posed to the Board of Education to determine, sort of priorities and maybe groups of alternates to take if there's available funds.
Right. I think they need to be part of that process when the time comes. Definitely. Thank you.
And they're going to handle telling the Board of Ed. Seth is going to let the Board of Ed know that we're proceeding this way. We don't need to appear before them again, do we? Explain that.
I'll coordinate that with Seth. It might be just me at one meeting talking about it if as need be, but that was fairly straightforward and easy process. The BOE made that smooth last time, so I don't anticipate a procedural issue there, and I'll take care of that.
Got it. Okay, so the breakdown of VE to alternates is
Yeah, so scrolling down here, and this is an Excel file, so it's been updating in real time as we've been moving things from one bucket to another. So right now, based on all the VE above and the alternates being pulled out from base scope, the variance to the budget is 5.8 million over the budget at referendum. Going back and comparing again to where we were at schematic design. At schematic design, this number was 6.9 because there was an anticipated 5 million coming over and then 1.9 to resolve. So that number's come down by about $1 million since schematic design. Just for everyone's reference on the right-hand side here, this 7.6 million over, that would be the number if all of the alternates that we saw today, both above and below, were put back into the project at bid day. So that's sort of the buy everything that's on the list there, and that would be a $7.6 million overage. And just to clarify a topic that came up at the last meeting with regard to Ryerson. So currently, none of the numbers above and below the drawings, none of them contemplate the cost for abatement and demolition of Ryerson. We did some coordination after the meeting and reviewing the referendum verbiage and the SBC charge and things of that nature. Ryerson doesn't appear as an explicit scope as part of the referendum. There was a line item on a budget where we contemplated Ryerson, but amongst that, there was also line items for a septic sewage treatment plant as part of the septic design because it wasn't clear what the scope was going to be. So that's the breakout of these estimates right now, is that the demolition abatement of Ryerson is not currently in these estimates and is not on the drawings. The plan would be to, during construction, complete the assessment of Ryerson's hazardous materials. If that's how the town wants to continue to proceed, and determine if there's sufficient budget to do the demolition at that point, but not at this point currently while we're going into the main construction phase documents.
But I believe it was in the architect's design scope and the CM's scope of work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if we like not to do that, we'll coordinate with Tecton and Gilbane.
Got it.
Thank you, Adam. I think that was very clear, and I was one that brought it up because, you know, the perception of what we first talked about was one of the items, and I think it's clear that we just say we can't afford it. It's not part of the scope anymore, unless, you know, the bids come back and then we can add it back in. But I think it's clear it's not part of the scope. We can't afford it, and I agree 100% that we should spend no money and no time on it at this point. So thanks, Adam.
Excellent.
All right. Is there anything else on BEVM or alternates to talk about? Otherwise, there is a draft motion in the committee packet. It's very similar to what we did at schematic design, basically to approve the spreadsheet as I've modified it here during the meeting. I'll publish it after the meeting to the SBC packet as a formalized document. And then there's a contingency on acknowledgement from the Board of Ed, because it's some of them touch the ed specs in terms of making them alternates.
I personally don't have any comment. I thought you did a great job, Adam, and the design team and CM getting to this point. We still got some, do have to go back to the Board of Selectmen and get some money, but I think we vetted it and did a, yeoman's work getting to this point. At least that's my opinion. Hopefully the Board of Selectmen agree with that assessment. Does anyone have any comments or questions, or are we ready to make a motion? Would anyone like to make a motion? Heard the read. If anybody's got, Woody, are you looking at the draft motion from Adam?
I can. Okay.
Yeah, I'll remind everyone you saved the skylights, Woody. When at the ribbon cutting, when I point that out.
All righty. So I'd like to make a motion to accept value engineering options marked as accepted, rejected, or alternate as shown on the design development, value engineering, and value management log dated 5/15/2023 as shared and updated during the 5/15/23 SBC meeting. Acceptance is contingent upon BOE approval for items identified as deviating from the approved ed spec approved 1/10/23.
Thank you, Woody. And do I have a second?
Second.
George with a quick second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, everybody. Moving on to the next agenda item. Public comment. Raquel, do we have anyone with their hand raised?
No.
Well, a beautiful evening like this, I'm surprised anybody would be here except us.
Couldn't tell if George's thing was a background or if he's actually in a very much prettier spot than I'm at right now.
I'm actually in Maryland on a motorcycle trip,
Oh,
so don't break into my house while I'm gone.
okay. Excellent. Well, in that, hearing any other comments? Hearing none, would anyone like to make a
Oh, no,
motion?
hold on.
Oh,
I have a question for Justin. Justin, I was at the ACA thing and we're looking at the last part, the north side of the building where all the buses come in and the kids come in, that like around the rest of the building and all the new proposals that were updated were changed a lot of the outside features that were whimsical and colorful, and it made the building a lot nicer. The one thing I looked at was the north side has nothing. It's like just brick wall. And that's the first thing all the kids that get off the bus see. So I was wondering if, I don't know, like a bulletin board thing, I'm not saying the right terms, but if something could be just done with that those brick walls a little bit. I know we're cutting budget stuff, but every kid getting off the bus, the first thing they're gonna see is just this big massive brick wall. Both entries have brick wall, unless I'm wrong, I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, I'll be frank with you. We were focusing on the west elevation and the south elevation. And we need to reconcile that with especially the pre-kindergarten wing at the north elevation. So your point is well taken. And we anticipate having, at one of our next meetings, kind of holistic project summary presentation where we can get into some of these things. Because I know the building committee, outside of some technical drawings, hasn't seen a very nice presentation from us in a couple meetings. So that's on our queue to put in front of this committee and to have that discussion.
Thank you.
Can I also mention one thing that should have been part of my architect's update? And Graham, I'm sorry for belaboring. I think you were looking for a motion to adjourn here pretty quickly. But the topic came up regarding EV charging stations at last Monday's meeting. I have confirmed with Kermit, who was our OSC GNR reviewer at the state, that the requirement that was initiated on January 1st of this year to have public buildings have 20% EV charging stations does not apply to this project. They consider, or at least OSC GNR considers, the initiation of the project date to be the date of the grant application. So considering that that was before January 1st of this year, this project is not does not have to fulfill that requirement. So we can go, as I believe we had discussed, about just providing future conduit to areas so that we can get out of the building to some locations. So that's a bit of good news in terms of some of the discussion points that we had last week.
The Eversource, not to digress, Eversource has rebate programs for, $20,000 per duplex charger. I think Woody, you were involved in trying to get some chargers, so we may want to take advantage of that anyway. I don't know if any of the schools have a demand for Bill. Do you know if anybody else has requested them at the schools? I know the town was going to put some in the town buildings.
So it's 20,000 per meter, so that's 20,000 for this site. And if you're talking, what'd you say, 20%? We have 150 parking.
No, I was just putting 2 or 4, something like that. We don't need to. Yeah, we're talking about putting in 2 or 4. That's a state buildings, they touch them every 40 years, so that's a long view.
There's none proposed financially at this point at any of the schools. There's some at the town locations and one at the police station, one at the senior center. We wanted to put one at the surf club, but we were concerned about the flood zone. So there's some at the municipal sites, none at the schools. We definitely looked at it. We put conduit underground for our help me out, Woody. What did we put conduit underneath the carports? Thank you.
Right.
But we didn't
Yeah,
put
the
them
car-
in.
I mean, yeah.
it's pretty expensive and the rebates aren't as great as we had hoped.
Not on level 2, exactly. They're terrific on DC chargers, but not so much on level 2. And another problem is that if we provided chargers for staff use, we would have to charge for the use of those chargers at the same rate that we're charging for municipal chargers. So it takes away a lot of that benefit. And really only staff gets to benefit from that because they're there long enough to take a reasonable charge. Whereas somebody that's a visitor coming in for a conference, they're not going to plug in for 30 minutes or 60 minutes typically. So it's less, I don't know. I think it's less important for a school than it would be for municipal buildings.
Yeah, I guess and staff generally lives locally, so it's not like.
Are you muted, Graham?
No?
Oh,
Can you hear me? I'm not muted. Can you still hear me?
yep, I hear you now.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, and staff generally lives close by, so it's not like they're in desperate need of a charge. They usually live in a house with a charger, I'm sure, so it wouldn't be that much of a problem. So I guess we'll stub it out and we'll go from there.
Yep.
So so back to the agenda item. So thanks for the update, Justin.
Sorry.
No. Good to know. Yeah, we got an unruly mob here tonight. So anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
I will.
Okay, seconded. Any seconds?
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
When's our next meeting?
Currently,
June
2
5th?
seconds.
June 5th?
That's the night of the wetlands hearing.
Or do we
Correct.
push it?
Well, it's just not.
Yes, it's currently targeted for the night of the wetlands meeting.
What time's wetlands there? I don't think they start till 7,
Oh, okay,
so I think you'll be all right.
beautiful.
All right, see you on the 5th.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Enjoy Memorial Day, everyone.